Good morning, y'all news junkies. John here. How are we doing this morning? Quick reminder, over here on this channel, right where you're at, tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be wargaming. We're going to be talking about what if the UN boots on the ground here in the United States became peacekeepers? What would that look like? And also, the American citizen, the patriot, how do we fight against that? That's what we're going to be wargaming tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so let's get into the news this morning. Have y'all seen, we're going to cover it, but have y'all seen where Joe walked into the wrong building at the UN summit that they're having? He thought it was like a UN meeting hall, and it turned out to be a cafe or something, and everybody started laughing. It's so embarrassing. We'll get there, though. So, Israel, there's a transfer of power coming. Netanyahu has been voted out in their version of Congress, okay? And he was voted out, I think, by one vote. And I guess they just expected he was going to leave quietly. It turns out that's not the case. He was scheduled, it was a 60 to 59 vote. He's going to be replaced by new Prime Minister Bennett, who is actually one of his proteges. He worked under Netanyahu for quite a while. So Netanyahu was scheduled to give just a few minutes in terms of a speech. And he says, nah, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give a 30-minute scorched earth speech. He goes on to say, this is not the last you've heard of us. He's talking about the more conservative party in Israel. He goes on to say Bennett's not going to be able to handle the job, that this strengthens Iran, this move weakens Israel in this region of the world, and I tend to agree. And he says, that terror regimes in places like Iran, etc., they're cheering this move. Now, this could be just him being bitter. I don't know. I do think it's going to weaken the region because I think all of the countries nearby, near Israel, they're just like any other country. When you replace that leadership, you're going to be tested. That leader's going to be tested. And if this new man, Bennett, is not able to handle the job, Israel's in for a very tough ride moving forward. He actually brings up Washington and Joe Biden, and he says that he was specifically asked not to speak about the deal, between, I guess, the Palestinians and Israel, because Washington doesn't want it to be aired out publicly. And he says, I'm not going to do that. With all due respect, I can't do that, Netanyahu says. Then he goes on to explain, in a roundabout way, that Biden and the administration are in bed with Iran, and that is why they pressured Netanyahu to back down from the, the conflict that was going on there with Israel and the Gaza Strip. So, the Prime Minister of Israel needs to be able to say no to the President of the United States on issues that threaten our existence. So he thinks that he's going now to be replaced with a much weaker leader and somebody who is going to be a puppet to the Biden administration. I'm not an expert on that region. That's just what I'm reading out of that article, okay? The left stands with the squad. I'm not going to click this story, folks, but I do want to explain something really quickly. There is no squad. Okay, there are a handful of junior congresswomen here in the United States, and they hate America. They hate America as it is. They hate the values that we have, the fact that we celebrate the 4th of July. They hate our customs. They just want to upend the country. I don't know how these ladies got into power. I don't know how they became representatives or, whatever you want to call them in Congress, but they don't care about this country. They're here to cause, and they're here to disrupt things, I guess you would say, for the worse. The term the squad was given to them by mainstream media. And what this does is mainstream media, and Fox is also guilty of this, it groups these ladies together and it turns them into a boogeyman, and it gives them material to write about. And instead of listing, she said this or she said this, now they're the squad. It's like a superhero squad. They write, it's sad. They write these news articles in a superhero style because the younger voters, that's what they understand. They don't really understand politics. But by God, you don't mess with the Avengers, or you don't mess with the X-Men, or in this case, the squad. So the Fox News and the conservative outlets, when they say the squad, they're getting ready to paint them in a very negative light. And I would agree in most cases. The leftists in this country, the CNNs and the MSNBCs, etc., when they say the squad, they appeal to the people that are reading as if the squad has been done wrong and they're being oppressed. Of course, they spin it a totally different way. So read into it however you want to, but at the end of the day, there is no squad. These ladies don't wear superhero costumes. They're junior congresswomen, and they don't have very much power. But the mainstream media, they just continue to throw them into the news because it divides the country, okay? So let's skip on down a little bit. Putin's reacts. Here, this is going to be a good one. Putin calls the accusation of cyber attacks against the United States a farce. So in other words, to him, it is a laughing matter. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I'm going to say it. I agree. It's laughable. There are certainly cyber attacks. And I think that it's been proven that these cyber attacks are indeed coming from Russia. However, it does not mean that these Russian attacks are state-sponsored. Meaning, these hacking groups probably didn't get a phone call from Vladimir Putin saying, hey, hack the U.S. He's saying, look, just because criminals live here and they broke the law, it doesn't mean there's dirt on our hands. They just happen to be Russian. In fact, I would argue, folks, again, I didn't wake up thinking I was going to do this. I would argue that the United States has just as much dirt on its hands as the Russian government in a lot of different things, right? Our hands aren't clean. But what's happening here, and I'm going to quote him actually, it's becoming a farce. This is Putin. We have been accused of all kinds of things, election interference, cyber attacks, so on and so forth. And not once, not one time did they bother to produce any kind of evidence or proof. Just unfounded accusations. This may possibly be why Putin and Trump had a level of respect, because Trump dealt with the same thing in his own country, didn't he? He was accused of all kinds of things. In most cases, not one shred of proof. Okay, so there was a photo of him with like McDonald's or something at the White House. He's guilty of that. Okay, he's guilty of dumb tweeting sometimes. Like he would tweet out the Taco Bell on the airplane for, Latino Day or whatever. He's like this, but, he did do some dumb things. But the serious stuff that Trump was accused of was never proven. It was, in fact, a witch hunt. And Putin is saying, look, they're doing the same thing to me, and it's laughable. Because in the United States, they can actually do something about it. What are you going to do to the Russian Federation? Besides throw propaganda on TV. He's just not having any of it. So there you go. We're going to skip on over. And after this, we're going to retweet news. I want to switch it up a little this morning, if that's okay. As a matter of fact, if there's a news page that you normally follow and they're accurate, please drop it in the comments below and I'll give it a look. And if it looks like, if if it's accurate. I don't want to do something that comes off the back end of somebody's blog or something, okay? Something a little mainstream. U.S. assessing reported leak at Chinese nuclear power facility. Say that 3 times, son. All right. So I saw a little bit on this early this morning. There's a power plant in China, nuclear power plant. There's a leak. France is now saying, and other countries, they're saying, you know, this is dangerous. We need to evacuate. We need to get people in there now to kind of shut this thing down. China, on the other hand, as they always do, they say, oh, there's nothing going on. There's nothing wrong here. This place is a utopia, son. Nothing is ever wrong in China. Is it because they're a full-blown communist country? So the only news that you get out of China, you know, the people log into the news, they get 5 headlines and they're all puff pieces. All right? They're not allowed to look at anything else. So they're saying there's not even a problem. But this thing apparently is a huge problem if you believe the French government. They're saying that this thing could be catastrophic, so that is something to look at. I get that we're not in China, folks, but this could affect a lot of things from the supply line to negotiations back and forth. The Chinese not only are saying there's no problem, they're actually upset at the French for putting this information out. And of course, the French are saying the same thing, that the Chinese always project that there's no problem. Which is true. I'll give the French that much. That is true about the Chinese. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully this thing doesn't melt down or anything like that. The French, there's a French company, EDF, and they have a 30% stake in the company there in China that, you know, has the leak. So they're concerned, I guess, that they're going to lose money. It's not even about lives, which is ridiculous. But I mean, millionaires going to be millionaires, man, I guess. I don't know. I don't know any millionaires. So let's see. Israel's new prime minister is sworn in. So according to Fox, he's getting ready to leave. According to CNN, it's already a done deal in Israel. If it's not a done deal, it will be. And then we'll see from there. Leadership in Israel, I would say, just got a lot weaker. And last year, the leadership here in the United States just got a lot weaker. This is not a good sign. Not a good sign. Boomstick violence in America. Of course, they're going to pound that drum. They're going to continue to pound that drum. They're coming after the Second Amendment. We know it. There is no sense in even clicking it. All right, so let's go to the story of the day. Retweet news. Or RT news. Does it stand for retweet or what? I don't even know. I go here every so often. Let's see. Painful to watch. Joe Biden apparently gets lost at the G7 summit, wanders into a cafe. And so if you want to see the video with audio, again, it's on rt.com. But somebody actually captured video, and he walks in with his wife. I'm going to play it. It may not play the audio, okay? There's Biden. He's walking in. He doesn't realize where he's at. And somebody says, hey, Mr. President, how's the summit going? And he shoots a thumbs up. And then he walks back out the other side. And his wife's waving for him. Come on, Joe. Come on. It's just embarrassing, you know. And then the top tweet on this was, anyone who has ever had a family member with cognitive decline can recognize this clip. The leader of the free world is suffering from being senile. I mean, it's actually sad to watch. I think that there was probably a point in time when he was younger when Biden would have at least been presidential on camera. I'm not going to say he would have been a good president, but I'm saying he would have appeared to be presidential, kind of like Jimmy Carter did back in the day. He's an extremely weak leader. But the thing to understand, and then we'll close it out for the day, because my wife's got me doing honey-do list stuff. The thing to understand with Biden here is there are wolves at the gate always, meaning there are leaders of rogue nations that want to hurt the United States. And they're going to see stuff like this and they're going to say, well, now's the time to do it. Because this man doesn't even know where he's at. He didn't realize he was in a cafe several seconds after he walked in. He didn't know where he was at. So anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Thank y'all for pointing out the fact that I need to switch the thumbnail art every day. Somebody left a message and I'm like, that makes total sense. These are the kind of things that I should have thought about and I didn't, so I'm sorry. But anyway, this is John with Prepper Nation. Again, tomorrow night, we're going to be wargaming here. Tomorrow morning over on the main channel, let me show y'all. I'm going to give y'all a preview since you're here. The rest of the nation won't get this until tomorrow. We're going to be going over one of my favorite preps, which is a military grade chem light. I'm going to show you guys the chem light tomorrow on Prepper Nation. It is a military issued glow stick, and I'm going to show you what the difference is. All right, until tomorrow morning, take care and God bless.